Welcome back to another SAFC Fan TV on a Thursday night. It's not as exciting as normally because we did lose a game at the weekend. I forget who that was against. But on the channel tonight, we have Mike. Hello, Mike. How's it going?
Not so bad. Not so bad. Yeah, trying to look on the positive side of things.
Have you recovered?
No.
No.
Not mentally,
Been
not
depressed
physically.
all week, have you?
Yeah. Gone through a lot of whiskey, we'll put it that way.
Really? Whiskey drink, I bet. I heard Jack was on the drink on there all day Saturday as well. Jack, you all right? Have you recovered all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, it was one of those. Well, we were hoping it was going to be one of those special occasions, wasn't it? One of those derby days that live long in the memory. But yeah, sadly, it didn't work out how we'd all planned. I'm sure we're going to go into it in great detail. But yeah, it wasn't our day. But never mind. Onwards and upwards, I suppose.
Unfortunately so, Jack. And we've got Jacob. How are you doing, Jacob?
Not too bad, mate. The derby defeat is pretty much flushed out my system now, to be brutally honest. Yeah, it's forgotten about. All roads lead to Ipswich now. I've got a ticket going on Saturday, so just looking forward to that, to be honest. But I'm sure we'll go into more depth about the Newcastle game as the show goes on tonight. But yeah, I've recovered now. Enjoyed my weekend up regardless of the result. It was just great to embrace the atmosphere, have a couple of pints with the lads. Still got my things to do, which, yeah, the atmosphere was that good, it will stay with me forever.
Is that your quality street rapper, is it?
I don't know where they got this from, the club, to be fair. I mean, yeah, some sort of like...
Probably pound sketch or something, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, right, before we go into the Newcastle match, who heard Michael Bale's interview today? Have you heard of Mike?
I've read some comments of it. I've read some snippets. I've not actually watched the interview yet.
Have you, Jack?
I haven't. No, I'm in the dark, so to speak.
What about you, Jacob?
I've had a rundown of it in terms of he's given hints of what sort of players we're going to be after this window, but I'm still standing by. He'll have no say whatsoever of who comes in. It will just be his job to develop, I should say, whoever is brought in this January transfer window.
I mean, the kind of what I've taken away from it, it's just the same old, same old. It's going to be following the model. We're not going to be getting experienced players in, and we're not going to be spending a whole lot of money on players. And he wants to bring in players, of course, on the up rather than players that are plateaued or just about at the peak. So I think we're going to be the same old, same old. I don't think we're going to probably get rid of Burstow. He did like sort of speak up Pritchard a lot, so it looks as if he wants to keep Pritchard. So hopefully we won't be selling Pritchard, which a lot of us thought we might be getting kicked out. Michael?
He did openly say, I think on the Pritchard thing I was reading, that he said all the decisions over who arrives and leaves are club decisions. So that pretty much tells you that he's not really got a say in it.
But he also did say he was kind of the best player at this moment in time. He's a big player and he kind of wants him to stay. So if we did sell him and Pritchard didn't want him to go, I think there'd be a kind of bit of backlash for me. But anyway, Michael, you're on the chat today. How many's on the live stream? And you got some comments to read out from the people?
I've not got the numbers in front of me, but we've got our own Emma in there, says evening, lads. David Walker says hi, lads. Ben Allison says good evening, lads. Bristolian Mackham says all right, lads. Las Palmas Mackham's evening. Kyle says hi. Everyone's saying hello. David Joblin, Marion, Paul Heron. David Walker says going to be young and very cheap as usual. Ben Allison says nice to walk to the derby with you, Jacob. And Bristolian Mackham says if we're going to not get someone experienced in, then we need to buy young proven superstars or hidden gems. It's roulette.
True. Jack, before we go to the Newcastle game, how many players do you think we need in, and what kind of player would you want in realistically?
I think we need to strengthen right down the spine of the team. For me, I think we're still short of a centre-back. We're obviously crying out for experience in the middle, a holding midfielder, and well-documented a striker. So right down the spine of the team, for me, those three players. Now, I imagine probably we're going to get some loans in. The January market's quite good for getting loans in because there's players that haven't played in the first half of the season that become available from other teams, Premier League players that their teams don't really want or they want to give experience to. So there might be options available for those types of players. But I think it's just clear we need additions. I think we are so one-dimensional at the minute, which we're going to come on to and link it to how we played on Saturday against the Mags. But we're so one-dimensional, we're sometimes too easy to play against. We need other options for when teams have worked us out and plan A isn't going to plan. Obviously, things aren't working the way that we want. There has to be an alternative option, and I don't think we've got that at the minute. So that's going to be the key. Can we get some players in to give us a different option, a different style of play, or at least enable us to tweak things? So if we do play on Saturday against a team that's worked us out, then we've got another option. We've got someone else. I don't think we've got the ability to do that at the minute, unfortunately.
So what's your take? What's your thoughts on Kiefer Moore then, Jack? Would you take him?
I would take him. He's a big, tall striker, but I don't know. I don't know if we'd be the only ones in for him, though, Terry. I don't know if we're going to be leading the pack for that. I think you'd have a few suit to somebody like that. There's bound to be championship teams. There might even be a couple of teams in the bottom half of the Premier League would be interested in him. But yeah, I'd be very interested in him. I think he's a tall striker. He's probably physical. I think he's about 6'4" or 5", isn't he, by the looks of things? He would get goals in the championship, no doubt about it. Would he be able to press as we want him to press? No, but he'd probably be a bit more direct. Like you say, like I mentioned, there would be a plan B. So he would be someone I'd be very much interested in, Terry, but I don't think we're the only ones. I think that's the trouble we're going to have.
Yeah, I think also being 31, it would have to be probably a loan, but it's the wages as well. And it's the money, isn't it? I mean, I've heard someone say we've had talks or something, but I can't imagine it even fits our model at all. So I think that's probably just hearsay, to be fair. Anyway, Mike, yourself as well. What about how many players do you think we need? Do you not think that Silt should get a bit more time on the pitch?
Yeah, he seems to have proven himself. He should get some more time. What I think we need is obviously a bit more experience in. It shows when one of the best players on the pitch at the moment is Pritchard. That experience, that's something we really need to get back into the team. A few more players like that. I'm surprised there's been no talk of a goalkeeper, because I know we've got like Bishop. Is Bishop still our second?
Yeah,
but we've no one like with experience competing for that place, or just to give help, teach him how to kick a ball. So I'm surprised at that. My worry with Kiefer Moore is he's Bournemouth, isn't he? And they are rumoured to be one of the teams that are interested in Clark. So is the talk something to do with a swap deal?
Possibly. I mean, my source says Clark's 80% of kind of still going to stay at the club, and apparently they don't want to sell. If it was down to the coaches like Dodds and Proctor and all them, they don't want to sell anybody whatsoever and get rid of anybody. But it's down to Speakman, isn't it? Jacob, your thoughts on bringing players in? Do you think realistically we're going to get anybody decent in, or is this going to be kids and bits of loans?
It really depends, Terry, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what Speakman has planned behind the scenes. I mean, the most likely option is we'll go down that route again of young upcoming talent rather than experience. But at the same time, Speakman and the board will feel experience will come with a cost, which will be a higher wage packet. I know we've got Pritchard on the books at the minute. I mean, back onto Pritchard firstly. Personally, I think obviously there will be clubs looking at him considering he's in the team 1 minute, out the team another. But at the same time, they'll take into account the fact he's out of contract this summer and they can get him on a free anyway. So I don't think they'll be wanting to pay the money now and put the wages he's on when they can get him for completely now in the summer. But in terms of players we need right now, one would definitely be a fullback, I should say, considering the injuries we've got to Huggins, who I don't think will kick a ball for a long time. And also I think the club released that Sirkin is going to be out for another 12 weeks. So yeah, a fullback, definitely that's on the shopping list. A central defensive midfielder, I would say, someone who can basically do the Corey Evans role. I know we've got, I've heard apparently Matete has been training with the first team a lot recently, but whether he makes an impact on it, I'm not so sure. Beale might feel he needs another loan spell out like he did at Plymouth. And it depends whether we go what caliber striker is in through the door. Like you said, a Kiefer Moore type of player, a big, strong, physical number 9, whether it will be an experienced one or a young, upcoming one, who knows. But also, it could be a false 9 as well, the likes of the players we brought in over the past year. Diallo, who can play sort of wide of a front three, that sort of player. But Oh, excuse me 1 minute. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze there. I may have to mute my mic in a sec to do that. But yeah, it's really difficult to decide what Speakman has got planned. To be honest, difficult to predict, I should say. I mean, he indicated today we all thought Burstow was going to be sent back to Chelsea in order to free up a gap for a forward coming in, but we've heard apparently he's going to be staying. So yeah, unexpected one, but yeah, it could be something to do that he's seen something with Burstow behind the scenes where he feels he can get more out of him in the second half of the season, but really hard to predict, mate. Really hard.
I think it's more to do with just not want to bring anybody else in. He's just going to stick with Burstow because at the moment we're in sixth place, and they'd be happy it's working in sixth place, so why change it? But yeah, so I mean, before we go to the Newcastle match, want to go back to chat, mate?
Yeah, we got Anthony who said, all right, lads. Kyle McNair said, these owners haven't got a clue what they're doing. Colin Major said, sorry, lads, KLD out. I'm sure there's a few saying that at the moment. Stephen Clark said, I just wish they would give Benete a run. Like they've done with everyone else. I think he could be decent. I agree. I'd like to see him on the pitch. David Joblin, Sunderland called can't sell players. I assume that is. If I start selling players, they're going backwards. Ben Dawson says, see ya in Ipswich, Jacob, lad. And David Joblin says the chairman should resign, says David Joblin.
Well, if you're currently enjoying the live stream, please give us a thumbs up. Try and smash 100 thumbs up tonight. So it'd be much appreciated if you could. I did a little poll on my channel. Only been up for an hour so far. It's 320 votes, and it's 55% speaking with KLD out. The owners out so far. So it's quite split, 55-45. That's only with 320 votes at the moment. So it's looking as if, we sort of split down the middle, kind of, with majority, just over the majority Speakman out. Right, Jack, we're going to go to the match now on Saturday. We'll talk about the first 15-20 minutes first. We're going through it in stages. When the players came out, I mean, the fans are absolutely amazing. Full house, full voice. I thought it was, I thought the fans did their bit 100%. What do you think happened to the team in the first 15-20 minutes? Do you think it was a good start? Do you think we froze a little bit? I mean, what was your take on it?
I thought we did okay. You always had the feeling that Newcastle were in more control than we were, though I felt like they were better with the ball. They were more physical. They imposed themselves more. First 20 minutes, though, they didn't really threaten. But as the first half wore on, you got the feeling like it was just a case of they were up in the ante a little bit. They had the levels to go through, didn't they? We didn't. We were sort of playing at our maximum just to keep our heads above water. And they had another couple of gears. And when they start to get in the swing of things and knock the ball around and they looked sharper than we did, it was always going to be a case of, can we get to half-time? Can we get to half-time at 0-0? And obviously we didn't. We made a mistake. And that's what happens when you're playing Premier League teams. And it hurts us to say it, Newcastle are a better than average Premier League team. They finished fourth last year. They're not being playing in the Champions League for nothing. When you're playing against, Premier League teams, they punish you. We got caught down the left-hand side. Ball in, and Ballard obviously slices into his own net, trying to clear it. And then you're thinking, well, it's only 1-0 going into the second half, aren't you? What's our reaction going to be? And then it was absolutely a car crash to concede within 30 seconds. I know I've gone into the second half then. You only wanted the start of the game, but it was just frustrating, really, wasn't it? Just, everything that could go wrong from that point on did.
You mute, Derek.
There we go.
Do you think the Ballard, he put his ball in the back of his own net? If he hadn't gotten that, would Isaac have gotten it, Jack?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Because if he doesn't do anything and Isaac taps it in, people would have said, "Why is Ballard not doing anything?" And then he tried to clear it, and it's ended up going into his own net. And it was the timing of the goal for me. What was it, 7, 8, 9 minutes before half time? Because they were starting to get on top, but they hadn't really threatened. And it's just frustrating that over the course of the whole game as well, despite Newcastle being on top, they didn't have to work hard for the goals. That's what really frustrated me. We gifted them pretty much all of the goals. And when you're coming up against a team in the Premier League, if they carve you open and there's nothing you can do, you can hold your hands up. But the goals were so avoidable, weren't they? All three of those goals we could have avoided. And they didn't really have to get out of second or third gear to beat us. And that's what's frustrating. It's not the fact we've lost. We can all take that we've lost if we go down with a fight. But we weren't intense enough, and we just didn't really compete with them, and that's what frustrated me more than anything else.
Jacob, you wanted in?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my full full insight rather on the game in a set. You can go to Michael first, but one thing I want to say about Ballard, without him on the pitch, it could have been 5 or 6 to them. You know, even though he gave away the penalty, and obviously it was him that it ricocheted off and went into the top corner for their first goal. If he didn't do that, Isak would have got a tap in at the back post. Ballard was just influential to that team. You know, he showed strong leadership qualities on the day, and yeah, he's a key player to this side right now. And if he gets injured, wow, it's a big loss.
Come on then, Jake, give us your first half analysis. Then.
Go. All right.
Since
you've come to me, yeah. The first 45 minutes, I thought we gave a good account of ourselves in terms of the players we had available. I think that's probably the strongest team we could have put out on Saturday, considering Roberts' injury. If Roberts was fit, it would have been a debate whether we would have gone with more width and maybe dropped Rushin and played Pritchard as the forward. But in terms of how we did at the top end of the pitch, even though we didn't really threaten their goal much in the first 45 minutes, I thought Rushin gave a good account of himself. I thought he put himself about every time there was a physical aerial battle. I thought he done well to try and win the ball at least off Dan Burn, who was market or Botman, I should say. And he did win a few aerial challenges to link up the play with Pritchard, so fair play. In terms of what Jack was saying, it was pretty much anyone's game. I thought the first half in particular, I think there were half chances they had up until the goal that they scored, and it was completely through the run of play. They had more of the ball.
But Jacob, we didn't threaten at all in the first half, did we?
No, but it was. It could have been anyone's game. I mean, they had obviously more of the ball and had half chances, I should say. But at the same time, we didn't do enough to really take the game to them. We could have done a lot more. But at the same time, I do think it was experience that had them, because it had the advantage for Newcastle, I should say. I mean, that you sort of knew it was going to be an uphill battle when the game kicked off and we gave the ball. I think it was Ekwin that gave the ball away after 10 seconds. I mean, it's just experience and technical quality, what you get in Premier League football compared to Championship. They were just way ahead of us, mate. It's the reality. Unfortunately, Terry, it just is. I mean, their midfield three won them the game with Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes and Sean Longstaff, just technically way ahead of Ekwa, Neil and Bellingham. But right now, I should say they've got the potential to be at that level eventually. But in terms of where they are at this moment in time, yeah, just miles apart. Second half, listen, you can say you can.
We'll get second half in a minute, Jacob. Let's just ask you one thing.
Yeah. First off, we'll go to Michael. Go to Michael first. Yeah.
Okay, Michael, we'll go to you first before getting to something else.
I'll be brief because obviously it's they've said everything. I think we held our own a bit. We didn't create the attacking chances, but by the halftime point, I was still hopeful. I was still slightly optimistic. I was watching from home, as people might have seen watching on the stream. Great reactions of crossing your fingers and then going a goal down. So, but it was it's the weirdest one to say to anybody. We lost 3-0. Ballard scored an own goal and give away a penalty. He would have still been my man of the match. And I agree with Jacob on that. He was brilliant. And it's weird to say because unless you watched it, you don't know. So let me do the comments really quick so I don't lose track of where we are as well. DJ Sizzler Watson says, "Evening, boys. Mags, did anyone else notice Rusyn screaming for the ball? You get nothing if you don't get the ball in the box." John and Jim Nesbitt, the Nesbitt brothers are in the house. I had to give them a little feature there. KTM, if KLD doesn't want to invest and has no ambition to get to the Premier League, then go away politely, he says. Gary Talbot, end of the day, lads, boys against men. Hopefully we learn from this. Paul Heron said, "We've conceded sloppy goals over a season now. No protection of the back four." Emma says, "First 20 to 30 minutes, I thought we were there in the game, if you like, trying to keep up with them. I was happy the way it started. Didn't expect them to start as well as they did." David Joplin, Sunderland was so far behind Newcastle. Jim says, I think it was a case who lost the game rather than Newcastle won it. Stephen Clark, I think there were some of our players that dealt with the occasion better than others. It was pretty clear, but because the half the team was missing, we just could not get going.
Do you not think, Jack? I watched Middlesbrough last night against Chelsea, and I watched them against Aston Villa. Is it not more of a feeling of Michael Beale not being able to get the team up for a fight and a bit of passion in that game? Because I saw no passion whatsoever just about in that first half for me. We were dominated. Yes, Newcastle players, they are, they're well drilled, well organised. They're a better quality team altogether. But surely if we showed a bit more fight, we might get a little bit something out of the first half.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it, Terry? Because we've only got the one tactic, we've only got the one way to play. We only know the style of football that we play, which is we get the ball down, we play football with quick movement, and then we get the quick switch overs, lots of touches, lots of passing. And Newcastle, they're a good side, but they're also they're well coached. Eddie Howe's he's a decent manager. I don't personally like the bloke, but he's a decent manager. He knew exactly how to play against the Sunderland team. How do you play against us? You step onto us when we've got the ball, you press us high up the pitch, any 50-50, you get physical with us because they've not got that much physicality in the team. They're not got any experience, and a few of the younger lads might hide in the shell. And that's exactly the way that the game went. And I think I agree with you to a certain extent, because I don't think Bale covered himself in any glory anyway. I mean, only one substitution in the 85th minute. That was a bit of a head scratcher. You could see straight away. I mean, as soon as that goal goes in, bring a couple on. I mean, I'm not saying it would have been the answer to our prayers, but bring a couple on and change it. You might get a reaction from the crowd. The crowd might get up a little bit. You're 2-0 down at home in a derby, staring a defeat in the face, and he waits 40 minutes to change it. But I think some of the players need to take accountability as well, Terry, because I think if you need the manager to get you going for a derby game against Newcastle, you're at the wrong club. You shouldn't need a manager to get you going. You're the one on the pitch. If you're at home as a Sunderland player, you've got 46,000 or whatever it was, 45,000 in a derby against Newcastle, and you can't get yourself going. I'm sorry, but you're at the wrong club. And I think we learned a little bit about a few of the players as well. Maybe a few of them have got a bit further to go to get to the top than we initially thought.
Do good head coaches or managers not adjust the team to suit who they're playing against? When they see we getting outplayed in the first half, then we go in at half time, but then we come out and do exactly the same thing and get caught exactly how we're going to get caught in the first half. Surely a good manager, head coach, has got some kind of brain on his head and would change something at half time. I
agree, but I think that's partly down to the personnel that we have, Terry. I don't think we've got that many other options. We've got a plan A. And if plan A works and we're doing okay, then that's great. But if we haven't, I'm not sure what else we could have done. Maybe stick Bellingham further up and go a little bit more direct to him. I don't know, but I certainly think that still playing out from the edge of your own box against a team that's pressed you in the full first half, and then 30 seconds into the second half, you do exactly the same thing again. It is crazy, but we've spoken about it. But yeah, just silly, really.
Jacob, I'll ask you the question: is Michael Beale a robot?
For me, though, Terry, people can disagree with me. I thought the way how he came across in his interview afterwards, I think he couldn't have put it any other way, to be honest. I mean, like Jack said, that is the way.
I don't care about interviews. I want results on the pitch. I want to see him do something at half time, but then fall into the same trap of doing the same thing. Is he not just a figurehead, someone to talk in an interview, and that's it? Because what did he do?
Yeah, but Terry, the second goal we concede, for me, that shouldn't be down to management. It was a mistake from Ekwe. He decided to take
in his own penalty box. Why don't you just get rid of it?
I think it was what he should have done was give the ball wide to Alessi. Alessi should have booted it up the channel. He decided to take him on instead. But we played that way in the first 45 minutes. We got away with it, and
that's
at the same time,
you get away with it, didn't you? But you cannot just get away with it in these games, can you?
No, but at the same, people were aware. There was obviously there was a lot of tension where I sat in the stadium on Saturday when we kept playing this way throughout the set. There was a few occasions where they could have closed us down again and won the ball off us, but at the same time, we weren't. Patterson, who did he really have to launch the ball to? At the time? That's why I thought Rushin had an excellent game. We wouldn't associate him before that game of football that he would put himself about in the air, and he did win a lot of second balls against Burn and Botman. But at the same time, Patterson would probably be looking at it and think, Job, that was Job's worst game in a Sunderland shirt. You would have thought this is where I agree with you, Terry. I thought he could have showed, with it being a big occasion, to prove that he isn't going in the same direction to what his brother would have been when he was coming through the ranks. And I think the occasion got to him a bit. It was just a complete off day for him. He didn't put himself about in the first 45 minutes. And Patterson thought, you know what, I'm not going to launch the ball to you. You showed a lack of passion in that first 45 minutes. We're going to play the ball out from the back and technically try and match Newcastle. But at the same time, you might disagree altogether. Obviously, you referred to Borough's performance against Chelsea the other night, but Chelsea are a different team to Newcastle. Newcastle, one of the best sides in the Premier League, playing with a high press. And for me, could we have adjusted differently for the sake of one game? It's debatable, but at the same time, I think that's all the players know, playing this one way right now.
That shows how poor our game is at the moment, isn't it? To be fair, if it's just a one-dimensional at the moment.
It's different opponents, though. That's the thing, just different levels of quality. If we played that way against Championship sides, we would have got away with it. The fact that they've got, players with Champions League experience, got caps at international level. And if this is a side, I know they were on a bad run of form, but form goes out the window going into derby games. They're mid-table at the minute, but this is a side that finished 4th last season. And the scoreline could have been even more if we weren't, if it weren't for Ballard, going back to my point earlier.
Yeah, Michael, maybe it's been 4th last season, but this season they're in terrible form. They're dropping down the table. They've got shitloads of injuries. Surely we could have given it a better game than we did, Michael.
To be honest, I think we did give it a good performance. What gets me is Beale. Is I can make an excuse for every player on the pitch, and you can all have a bad day. But to not make any subs until like 85 minutes, and then the one sub you make is Bar. And to be fair, hands really up to Bar. He came on, he did really well. But what chance have you got of doing anything with 5 minutes left? He looked like the type of player, if you'd have brought him on at half time, if he was performing like that and you brought him on at 60 minutes, for example, he might have made a difference. But you've only made one change. And I'm sorry, in the first 30, 40 minutes, all them lads were working their ass off trying to keep up with the Premier League team. There's going to be tired legs out there. The subs, for me, just...
So Michael, who's on the chat? Sorry, Jake. Go on, Jack. Sorry.
I was just going to say. Why not even we've been critical on, but throw Mason Burstow on, maybe see if he can get among them up front, or even Semedo or something like that, or even get Chrissy Rigg on, and get him running a little bit. The crowd might get behind him just to do something, just rather than just sitting with his hands in his pockets. Just tactically as well, it's an interesting question. Should we have maybe gone 5 at the back and played like we did against Leeds and let them have more of the ball and then be a bit more organised, and rather than trying to play football, maybe we were a bit naive that way and just thinking, we'll just play our normal way and we'll be okay against Newcastle, when really we should have sort of changed to match them, if that makes sense. I think that probably would have been, in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. Might have been a better option.
Right. Michael, we'll go to the chat first. Anybody want to say anything on the chat?
Yep, so we've got DJ Watson says we gave them too much respect. They might be Premier League, but they weren't that special. Emma says all over. Ballard was gutted. Ekwa was gutted. Ballard was pure frustrated. I would do the same. Ekwa had a shot and tried to come back, but it didn't happen. And I think she's saying man of the match, 09, Ballard, Pritchard. Conrad Tank says evening. Gary Talbot, well said, Jack. Purple Rust says, we have tried Rusin, Mayenda, Hamia, Burstow, Bar, Dak, Pritchard and Joe all up front, which is ridiculous. I fail to believe any competent manager or coach is making these subs and picking the team. Stephen Clark says, Beale said didn't change because he looked at the bench and everyone was younger than who was on the pitch, so didn't bother apart from Bar. Tam says, I think the game had been a red pill for the lot of fans, that KLD's plan. The answer was just that the club wasn't just what is the club's ambition. How many years of season cards are you buying to watch this? Paul Heron says our first team is a run like an academy, shape, style play, and player development is more important than winning games. KTM says Beale is not the answer. Conrad says Cannot blame Beale. Newcastle was simply too good. Class different, like it should be against the top half Premier League side. Stephen Hensel, Jack, how's your head? Biggest Dickus, Ipswich. I can't read your name out. That's the only time I'm doing it. Ipswich to beat the Markhams 3-0. So you can tell what he is. Stephen Hensel, can Jack remember Saturday? what happened Saturday, Jack?
I've given me a response. I did have a few beers, but like I've said on the chat, it was a day very much to numb the pain, wasn't it? I mean, we've just been walloped 3-0 at the Mags and produced probably our worst derby effort in about 15 years. Well, certainly 12, 10, 11, 12 years, whatever it was. So yeah, it was a day to numb the pain. That's my excuse.
Don't need
anyway, if you join the live chat, please give us the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new at the channel. Jack, right? Some people are saying it's not Beale's fault. He looked at the bench. He said the bench wasn't as good as what had on the pitch. Dill, Burstow, Silt. We had, we had Chris Rigg. We had was it Meander on there? Could he have done anything? Should he have not brought off Job with like 30 minutes to go and maybe he's brought a Dill on or change it around a little bit?
I think so. I mean, me personally, I would never, if we go 2-0 down on the stroke of half time, well, start the second half, shall we say, 46 minutes. I would never have a go at a manager for bringing a few subs on and it doesn't work. I would rather he did that than not do anything. I know people, sometimes managers are, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't, because if he brings a couple of subs on and we get beat 3 or 4-0, people would say, well, what's he brought him on for? Do you know what I mean? But I would never say that because I think at least he's tried something, at least he's rolled the dice a little bit, and that was my frustration. You can see we've been second best. We've got 40 minutes now. I'd rather he brought on Semedo and Bar and them earlier, and we got beat 4-0. Honestly, would and had a right good go rather than just limply lose 3-0 because you might as well have a good go at it. So yeah, I think he should have changed. I think I'm not saying there was loads of options on the bench. I'm not saying there would have made any difference, but at least try something. It was almost like he was making a point to the board and the owners, like this is how low on players we are, and we need some bodies in, we need some signings in. It was almost like he was sort of making a weird point. I've only made one sub in the 80th minute because I've got nothing in reserves and I need some players. I don't know, I might be wrong.
It's bizarre, Jacob, because exactly what Tony Mowbray was doing a few games. Beale, first game under pressure. In one interview on ITV, he was saying we don't have enough experienced players. So and then he kind of backtracked, and then he was saying on Saturday, looked at the bench. The bench wasn't basically not good enough to come and replace the ones on the pitch. But then today, in his interview today, he was saying, I've got belief in the bench. He sort of backtracked again. So on the spur of the moment, he kind of says exactly what Mowbray is saying. But then he realised he's got to toe the line and sort of reel it in again. What's your thoughts on that, Jacob?
I think he's trying to protect the players in the media. That's all I think he's trying to do personally right now. But going back to what he could have done differently, I think definitely Job should have come up. We haven't mentioned Jack Clark as well. He had a very poor game on Saturday. Just didn't show up at all on a big occasion against the Premier League side.
Why was that, Jacob? Why do you think that was? Is that because he got no service or he was too deep?
Just an off day. I think I thought that the way how we set up, I thought would have suited Jack Clark well, but it just was not his day at all. I mean, it's unlike Jack to have an off day like that. But Kieran Trippier, I thought for the majority of the game, his experience showed marking him. To be honest, never really got a sniff when Trips was on him, and it was the experience and also the fact that Jack Clark has got a long way to go. I mean, there's talk. Obviously, we haven't come on to that yet. He's been linked with moves away. West Ham eyeing up a £20 million move. The question is right now, is he really ready for Premier League football after a performance like that? Eyebrows are raised, to be brutally honest. But going back to what Beale could have done differently, I thought Job definitely shouldn't have played the full 90. If he was going to come off, it would have been either for Ashish for a bit of creativity or potentially Meander for a bit of pace to run down the channels, a bit like what Rushin was doing in the first half.
Right, Michael, we'll go to some positives now. Let's talk about Alex Pritchard. When Joe Linton went off, he had a lot more space in the centre of the park and had a couple of good shots. One just maybe grazed the crossbar and then one good save by their keeper. Was that a really good save from Newcastle's keeper?
Yeah, definitely. Pritchard always looks like he's keen to have a shot, and he probably looked the most likely to score. I know Ekwa had a bit of a bash later on trying to make up for his colossal mistake, but yeah, he probably looked the most dangerous on this pitch for our side at the time. I mean, even Clark, who usually would be that danger man, he just seemed to be marked and played out the game completely. He was trying to take on the Newcastle players as if he was playing against a championship side, and they just were like not having it at all. He didn't really get very far with that, which begs the question: is he ready for the Premier League? Is he worth the £20 million signing? I know he's worth that to us, probably he's worth more to us, but as a Premier League manager looking in, are you going to pay that for someone like that who's not proven at that level yet?
The thing is, Michael, right? I heard something what Gabardini said the other day on the BBC Newcastle. He said something about, you can get a load of kids playing together in a team, and there's no experience, so you might get like a lot of players not playing so well. But you could take out one good player like Jack Clark, put him in a really good side or a decent experienced side, and then he will shine because he's getting better quality football in the first place. He's getting better assists, better passing, and the whole game itself will probably raise his game to a different level. Where on Saturday, they were nervous. You could see their heads were a little bit dropped when they got beat, when they were 1-2 down. You could see that they wanted too much time on the ball, 100%. So, I don't think they're individually bad players. I just think the whole collective team on the day just didn't perform.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we had about 30 minutes where we looked like we could hold our own, and after that, it was just like, we shouldn't be making such simple mistakes when it's such a high pressure game, and that's probably contributed towards it. But how many Derby players have we actually got in our squad? Them grits down, teeth down, studs up players. How many of them have we got in a squad for the Derby game? I'm not sure.
So how many actually performed okay in your eyes, then, Mike?
Ballard, Pritchard, and Barr.
I thought Dan Neil did okay as well. I thought Dan Neil was up against, as Jacobs touched on, 3 Longstaff, Bruno, and Joe Linton. Those 3 are big lads. They're all tough competitors, and I thought he got in among it. He's not going to be physical, tearing into tackles like O'Nien and Hume, but I actually thought he was the only one to show for the ball a lot. I thought a couple of our lads they weren't as open for the ball when we had it, but he was in amongst it, trying to get us going a little bit. He misplaced a couple of passes, but he was always there among the mags, and he was trying to sort of place himself where they were passing to intercept it as well. So I thought he did okay, and I've been critical of Dan Neil sometimes, but I thought he had a pretty good game.
Right, Jack, do you not think Newcastle's midfield ran the show? Was Bruno not given just too much time, the freedom of the park?
Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's they knew straight away the way to play against us, that they press us high up, nick the ball off us, and then physically, get in behind and quick tempo. And I've always advocated us playing at a quick tempo, but when you come up against Newcastle, who are used to a Premier League intensity, and we just couldn't match it. They were well drilled, they were on it, and we just weren't. I think we could go on for the full hour about it, but I think that's what it boils down to. A better team were on it and intense, and a weaker team weren't, and that's why it was pretty much a stroll in the park for the majority of the game.
Newcastle weren't on the game when they played against Luton, Nottingham Forest, but obviously raised the game against Sunderland, haven't they?
But did they have to do a lot to? I mean, you highlighted the point at the beginning. Did they really have to do a lot to get that win?
No, not really. I think they kept us at arm's length, but I think there was also, you've got the Derby factor. They didn't want to lose the Derby, but they've also got the fact that they were coming at this game as massive favourites, weren't they? Let's be honest. I mean, we all said, I think we'll win and it'll be an upset, but realistically, I think from the outside, there's only Sunderland fans would have fancied us on that day. Most average neutral fans would realise that there was a gulf between the team. So I think they knew they had to approach it in the right way. They knew they had to be on it because there might be an upset and it would be hugely embarrassing for them. And unfortunately for us, they did turn up. They were assured, they were measured. And like Jacobs touched on, there was a huge gulf, not just in quality, but in experience as well. They knew how to handle it. And a few of our players, I hate to say, hid away for me.
Jacob?
I mean, it was set up for them. I mean, forget the whole decorating the bar shenanigans, which was 24 hours before. But
Jacob,
the whole
was all that noise to do with that? Do you think that affected the players?
I don't think it did personally. I think as a player going into a game, I think that should really motivate you more, to be brutally honest. And it was just different levels of class that cost us on the day. But at the same time, I thought the occasion was set up for them in the right way. The manager was under pressure, and the players, that performance from them was playing a lot for Eddie Howe, because he was under immense pressure. If he lost that game, he might not be in the job. He might not have been in the job right now. And I think there's obviously a real togetherness in that squad from the players, the reaction they gave that they want him still as manager at this moment in time. And they were out of form. And you know what they say, going into a derby, form goes completely out the window. And yeah, it was their day. It wasn't. But I just hope it will be a tad while till we play them again, because we need to upgrade in terms of quality to give them a better game at least and have more of a chance.
Well, Mike, I mean, what Jacob just said there, surely that is the impetus to get right in their faces from the get-go and really give it a go from the start and really sort of unrest them, get them sort of on the back foot a little bit, or just get them a bit nervous if the manager's under pressure, they're not performing very well. Not surely get right in the faces and give it a real go.
That would have been my pre-game team talk. That would have been it. Get in the faces, get involved, in for every single challenge, make them nervous, But we just didn't seem to do that. Like I said before, what players have we got on the pitch that will do that? There's only a few in my eyes. Can we just go?
Chat, please, Michael.
Yeah, let's just say, yeah. I'm probably going to miss a few because I'll keel over if I have to read them all. But Craig McLean says, as a mag, boo. I thought Pritchard tried to take the fight to us and was worried what a goal would do, and surprised that no support was brought on to freshen up and try while you had a half-decent spell, which is what we said. Where were the subs? So, Colin Major, did you know that the Mag fans were getting free pints because the Wi-Fi was breaking down in the Black Cats bar? Do we know if that's true, or if this is just more rumours for the Sunderland hospitality team?
That's to be honest now.
I mean, I know there's a few friends who have Mag friends who've all said that. I mean, one bloke said he got 8 pints at half time for your charge.
Madness. Danny Coyle, the best thing about Saturday was our fans, because he did not hear the Newcastle fans at all. Genuinely wish you luck to get back up and show the South what proper derby is, says Craig McLean. So he's rooting for us to go up there, which is good. Paul Heron, £600 a ticket. I want free champagne, says. John Nesbitt says, if you go to a car showroom and see a car like for 20,000 and you offer 12,000, will you get that car? I don't think so. That's what these owners are up to, penny pinchers they are. Bristolian Mackham, this window is crucial for our fans' patience with this model. We've got another Newcastle fan in there. Boo. We had too much physicality in the midfield. It was men versus boys on Clark. I don't think he's good enough to play for the Premier League. He's got one trick and not enough pace. Conrad said Newcastle had a sound game. Gordon, Almiron were brilliant. John Nesbitt says Craig McLean. Oh, he's replying to Craig McLean. I'm not even going to read them all. And our friend at the bottom, largest appendages, said, nice payday for KLD fella that cup game was. I wonder how much will be going back into the playing squad.
Absolutely diddly squad. Anyway, Jacob, what?
So what I was going to say, I mean, there was some debate coming out of the ground. If Mowbray was still in charge, would it be in a different type of performance? How I think it would have panned out differently under Mowbray. I think Mowbray would have injected maybe a tad more passion into the players, and we would have played with a bit more of a physical aspect to our game in the first half. But I think how it would have panned out, we would have burnt ourselves out so much. We would have gone in with high pressing. We would have tried to win second balls, and then the second half, with the tiredness levels dropping, we would have completely burnt ourselves out, and they would have picked us off. So I think Beale, obviously, he tried to play the way we've been playing the past couple of weeks. Maybe Mowbray would have tried something differently, but I still think regardless, whoever was in the dugout, we would have lost that game.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this all day till the cows come home, but we'd have to get on in a second. But I mean, end of the day, you know, I'm not going to blame any of the individual players for Ekwaza. It happens, So we just move on. We know we played against a much better side on the day. They rose the game. They're a better squad at this moment in time, better drilled. We were just off the pace. We seemed to freeze for me, and we just needed too much time on the ball. So we're going to have to move on at some point. So I'm not going to blame any of the players. But who was your man of the match, Jack?
I'll give it to Dan Neil. I think Ballard would be up there, but just because I'm not blaming Ballard, but he did have a hand in two of the goals in the negative way. Give the penalty away and sliced in his own net. I'm not saying he was to blame, because a lot of the time he was covering for 09 in the full back. But I'll give it to Dan Neil. I thought he was one of the only ones that was stood up and actually looked like he was trying to take the game to Newcastle a little bit. Pritchard did okay. I thought Neil looked like him and Ballard were probably two of the only ones that might be Premier League in the future on that performance. Those the only ones that really covered themselves in any glory.
And marks out of 10 for Michael Beale's performance.
He is Ian Bale. I've got EastEnders on at the minute, as you said, Ian Bale. Marks out of 10 for his performance. I'd be lucky to give him. He's lucky to get one. To be fair, I just think he didn't get the tactics right. No subs. Didn't look like he had any passion on the sideline. One sideline, the second half, he wasn't even like shouting or anything. He was just like stood there, like as if to say, "Oh well, that's it." He didn't have a good record in the Old Firm games either, so maybe he's not one for the big occasion. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, probably none.
So what does it say for the owners? You get rid of Tony Mowbray and you bring Michael Bale in. I just don't understand it one single bit. Jacob, man of the match, and scores out of 10 for Mr. Ian Bale, Michael Bale.
Best player I thought that gave us some ounce of quality at least was probably Pritchard. I think without him, I thought we wouldn't have had a sniff in the final third, to be honest. But standout performers, as well as Pritchard, Rushin, Ballard, 09 gave a good account of himself, and also Dan Neil as well. In terms of Beale, I'll go for a 3, to be honest. I mean, it could have been probably lower than that. Jack obviously gave him a 1, but I think best possible team he could have played, but could he have made at least one more sub? Possibly, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to give Michael 1 out of 10. I thought it was a really poor, dire performance from somebody who's, must have no clue what a derby's about. Right, Michael, yourself?
Man of the match, I'm agreeing with Jacob with Pritchard. Like I say, there was a few people that performed. I'd love to give it to Ballard, but he did, like I say, had a hands in the goals. But I felt for him, because that first one was going to be a goal if he didn't get anything on it. So he stopped them scored himself, but unfortunately. And as far as Ian Beale, Michael Beale, whatever Beale is concerned, yeah, when he's turning around to the bench looking like Ian Beale, going, "I've got nothing left," I would give him 0 to 1 at a push.
Exactly. There was more passion me going to the Chinese last night than him on the touchline the whole of the game.
And that's all you want to see in a derby is passion.
Oh, you want to see a bit of passion, even just from him alone. But never mind. Anyway, right, we'll put it to bed. We'll move on. At the end of the day, we'll just have to, shelve it, and that's it. Move on to the next game. But now we take an Ipswich away on Saturday night, 5:30 kickoff. Now, it's going to be some ask. I mean, Michael Beale's been now going on about these 20 games in the Championship, this big 20 games, massive 20 games. We need to get points. We need to do better than we did last season, which is obviously get to the final of the playoffs. That's what he must be sort of going towards. Jack, any changes against Ipswich?
I think there's got to be a few, hasn't there? We wouldn't be doing ourselves the justice if we say we played poorly and there's no changes and we didn't make any. I'd be tempted to give Barr run out. I really would. I think Barr's earned his place. He came off the bench on Saturday and did quite well. Might we drop Job? As good as Job's been this season at times, I don't think he did very well. He could maybe do with a spell off, so maybe that would be a change. Who would I go with up front? That's going to be another one. Rushin's done quite well, but would you maybe look at somebody to try and hold the ball up? Maybe even Burstow to come back in. So yeah, I don't think there needs to be wholesale changes, but I do think there needs to be 2 or 3 just to freshen it up a little bit and drop 1 or 2 of those that didn't play well. To be honest, on who played well last week, you would drop Jack Clark, but Jack Clark can't be dropped because he's our only threat. But Clark was as poor as anybody, wasn't he? So
same with Hume as well, wasn't it?
I mean, if you're saying who deserves to be not playing, I'll use the word drop, you would say Clark, but because he's our only threat and he's our main player, he'll probably end up staying. In a way as well, Terry, I'm I'm a bit gutted we haven't had a game in midweek this week, because I think a game Tuesday night would have been good to get it out of our system, get the Newcastle game out of our system, get people talking about something else, a chance to show them something else. So I'm a little bit disappointed we haven't had a midweek game, but all we can do is go to Ipswich, and very, very tough game. They're flying high, and I think the main thing for me, it's all about results in football, but it's about a performance. We need to show that we're up for the task, and we show more than we did on Saturday. You know, there has to be more from our players, and if we play like that and lose again on Saturday, then we can probably cope with it a little bit. So for once, I think the performance is probably as important, if not more important, than the result on Saturday. It's another game we're going into as underdogs.
What formation would you go with, Jack? Would you change the formation or tinker it with a little bit?
I mean, I think at times in the last few weeks, we've looked best when we've been a little bit more organised at the back. When we had the 5 at the back against Leeds, I don't know if we played at the 5 at the back against Hull, but we looked tighter then. And sometimes, you know, against a game, against a team that you're going to be less like, you're going to have less of the ball and not be favourites, it might be better to maybe go a bit more defensively and try to see if you can get a couple on the counter-attack. So might there be an option for there, going 5 at the back with Seal there at the back alongside O'Nien and Ballard? And I don't know, perhaps.
Michael, anybody on the chat want to say anything?
They want to say loads. They just like hearing me stumble on my words, so I've just started a few instead. Stephen Clark says apparently he was the same way at Rangers when they had derbies, no passion at all. So looks like it's the type of manager we've signed up for there. Emma says, can we give Luke a shout for that tackle against Smiley? Was one of the best of the game.
I've watched over 200 times this week.
I've watched that, and I've also watched remixes by both sets of fans. People saying it's the Newcastle fans saying it's a disgrace, and then I'm looking at it thinking, how can you call that a disgrace? He wins nothing but the ball. You know, it's crazy. KTM lads, can you remember when the last time Sunderland pressed a team and dominated it and played well? There's an interesting question. Can we remember any of them games? I would say it'd be was it the Southampton game, maybe?
I think that's the one, yeah.
John Ruddock, could you imagine getting to the playoff final? Panic could set in case we won it. That'd be interesting to see. Ryan McCormick says, I hope Patrick Roberts is back. We'll skip a...
He won't play again.
If Beale doesn't get to the playoffs and better than last season, I see that as a fail and get rid in the summer. I think if we lose the game, so the promotion is off. Paul Heron said, don't play Barr. The other players know he is rubbish and it demotivates them. Sealt as a centre-back, move O'Nien into midfield, Rusyn and Burstow up front. It's interesting. With a Beale point, I'll just ask the lads in the room, what do you think? I mean, do you think we need to give managers more of a chance? Or has he literally got till the summer and that is your lot? You know, what's your thoughts on something like that?
I think he'll definitely start next season as our manager. Yeah. I think that's my prediction. Whether or not he finishes next season as a manager, that's an entirely different question. But I don't think he'll go in the summer, regardless of what happens. I think even if he misses out in the playoffs, I think they'll give him another crack at it next season. That's my opinion.
What happens if he loses 20 games, Jack?
That won't happen.
If he loses 20 games, we're going to be in League One, and he's definitely going down, Terry. That's what's happening. But no, I mean, realistically, that's not going to happen. I think we're either going to be just in the playoffs or just outside of the playoffs. And I think either way, our fans will be unhappy if we're not in the playoffs. But I think our ownership model will probably be like, well, okay, we'll give him a bit more time. So yeah, I think he'll definitely start our manager next season.
Jacob?
That's what I think from the owners, anyway.
Yeah, I agree totally what Jack said. I think that he's here to improve players on a coaching point of view over a certain amount of over a certain time period, I should say. Different sort of direction to what we were going under Mowbray with a bit of experience. But I think Mowbray, a few have disagreed with me on this. I think he'd taken that team as far as he could. I think the fans were a tad disappointed that he'd gone, because he had a bit of personality about him amongst the fan base. But results were starting to slip in his final few weeks with him in charge. And yeah, something needed to be done. I think people were just disappointed with who's come in to replace him, to be fair. And obviously, people could argue, you know, did the board want Beale the whole time? The board were never really going to want someone that was going to come in and bring an entire different load of backroom staff in with them, a bit like how Hellberg and Steele wanted to. The board were never going to select someone that was going to do that. So Beale was the man. Trusting in the process. I know it's up for debate. I think we'll see what ambition is there when the window slams shut this month. But yeah, it's one of those things, mate. To be honest, I mean, I'll come on to what I think we should do against Ipswich in a moment. But yeah,
come on, just do it now. Then come on, Jacob.
Okay, thank you very much, mate. Yeah, I think going back to a back three won't be a bad idea, to be fair. But then again, we'd have to sacrifice a midfield player. I mean, the one to drop will be Job right now. I think not the fact that he's been poor. I think he was poor against Newcastle, but I think he could do with a rest from the side. I'll be open based on that performance coming on against Newcastle to start in Bar. I thought he gave a good account of himself, and I think against an Ipswich side who are second in the table at the moment, but are an Ipswich side who are out of form at this moment in time, I think he'll be wanting to prove something if he starts the game at the weekend. And I think, yeah, Portman Road, difficult place to go, but I think considering we've just come up against Premier League quality players the week before, I think we can give a better performance. The fact that we've had a taste of that and show why we can do it and better our game against Championship opposition.
Yes or no, Jacob? According to your statement, Tony Mowbray took as far as we can go. Is Michael Beale going to do better?
I think you need to ask me that question in the next.
He's still on the fence. Come on, you're saying Mowbray can't take us any further. We brought Beale in, believe in Beale. So
the reason I think performances have been. People can argue about results, but at the same time, has performances been that much different to Mowbray? Be brutally honest.
Well, we'll soon see, won't we? I don't think he'll do better than Tony Mowbray. That's my personal opinion, but I hope he does, of course. But I don't think he will. Right, Michael, what's your thoughts on the Ipswich game? Do you make any changes? I've got a feeling he won't do diddly squat, keep the same team, and let them prove that was a one-off against Newcastle.
But that's potentially what I was going to say, to be fair. My only actual change would have been resting Job. He just seems to be...
I would rest Job. You would rest Job. I've got a feeling he will not do that. He'll be told not to rest Job.
No. And I think he's just mentioned about keeping Burstow for the rest of the season, because the option was to send him back. So I don't know if he's going to give him a chance over Rusin. I don't know. I think it's scary because I don't want him to go into this game thinking, I'll just prove a point to the board that we need more players and, make a hash of this one as well, because it won't take long for fans to jump on his back, even the people that do support him. Because regarding the manager, I had Beale, we trust in Beale and Beale we trust on the back of my wall, as you remember the last couple of weeks. But for me, he was what was left after we couldn't get the 3 or 4 targets we wanted. So can he do better than Mowbray? I doubt it. I rate Mowbray over him.
And now you totally don't believe in Bale. Ripped his paper up and took it in the bin. So you're totally against Bale already.
If we win 6-0, I'll print another one off.
Bale's in the bin with Bradley Dack. Is that right?
Oh no, Dak's been incinerated.
Nearly got the whole show without mentioning him there, Terry. Nearly did a whole hour. That's, I think, the first time he's been mentioned, isn't he?
Going back to Burster, I just hope the fact that we've decided to keep him for footballing reasons, and Beale feels that he can get the best out of him in the second half of the season. Not the fact that if we send him back, Chelsea will be like, oh no, for that reason we're not going to give you any more loan players for the next few years. But at the same time, it shouldn't be about that, man. You know, players that you get from big six clubs about getting, particularly on loan, there'll be clauses in their contracts about, oh, they have to play a certain amount of games, blah, blah, blah. You know, you want to bring in young players who want to prove themselves if you get them on loan from Premier League clubs.
Right, Jacob, score prediction?
I'm going to go, you've always got to back the lads, haven't you? A 2-1 win.
Jack?
Well, I think we'll put in an improved performance. I think we'll give them a right good game, but I think Ipswich are doing quite well this season. I think we'll lose, but I think we'll lose in the right way as compared to losing in the wrong way last week. So I'll go 2-1 Ipswich, but I think we'll give them a really good game.
I think the last 4 games they've got beat off Leeds 4-0. They drew against Leicester, drew against Stoke, and possibly. Yes, there we go. So
having a bit of a wobble, aren't they?
Yeah, 2 points in 4 games. Score predictions, Michael. Any more comments that's took your eye before we leave?
I'll just read a couple out, so we're not leaving people out. John Ruddock said there's only one way forward, and is get rid of the ownership. We already know that's 50-50 split on that, don't we? This Saturday game will be interesting, as Beale would have had a full week's training. John Nesbitt said, more important, will he want to stay under this model? I doubt it. Just in case says, can't see us being in the playoffs, to be honest. Don't think Beale is for us. Watching his body language during the derby did not even look invested in the result. And the Bristolian Mackham said, I'd like some Italian defenders. They have a certain style when it comes to defence in Italy. Well, I mean,
Barrow come out of retirement.
I would like 4 massive Serbian defenders. That's what I'd like. But I'm going to go 2-0 win to Sunderland. Lads going out there to prove a point. Ballard was on form. He was very unlucky. He's definitely going to be wanting to prove a point. I think we're going to definitely have a clean sheet for this game.
Love it. I'm going to go 2-1 Sunderland win, full house. What do you say, Jack, again?
I think we'll lose, unfortunately, but I think we'll give them a game, is what I said. So I think it'll be 2-1 Ipswich. But I think it'll be an entertaining game. Hopefully, it'll be an open game.
Right, I want to say a big thank you to everybody on the chat out there, and don't forget to give us the thumbs up before you leave, Michael.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before we close off, we've got 134 watching and we've got 64 likes. So if you're watching on mobile, close the chat, hit the like, reopen the chat. Everything else, just hit the like.
Superb. Do you want to say goodbye, Michael?
Yep, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll be back next Thursday with a happier, cheerful, winning podcast.
Jacob?
As I always say, keep the faith, and if you're travelling down to Ipswich at the weekend, have a safe journey there and back.
You're going, aren't you, Jacob?
Yep, going. Got my ticket.
Happy days, happy days. Anybody sees Jacob, you'll have a pint.
It's not my line, that.
I want to say a big thank you to everybody. I want to say thank you to everyone on the chat tonight. Thanks for taking part in the comments and the likes and everything. And I know it's been a bit of a downer tonight, but we'll bounce back eventually, and hopefully, Michael will be believing in Beale again. Do you want to say goodbye, Jack?
Yeah, just more what you said. We've all been a little bit down, haven't we, today? It's been a little bit of a depressing SAFC Fan TV today. Not the usual chirpy selves that we are, but I always say, thanks for everybody for watching. So we're just 4 blokes just chatting to ourselves if we didn't have anybody watching and commenting. So thanks for everybody getting involved. And hopefully next week's a little bit more positive after win, as we say. And see everybody later, lads and lasses.
Right, cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Otherwise, I'll just be talking to myself. Right, good take. Good night, everybody. We'll see you later.